Hey, this is your lucky night. We got some great stories. In fact, the first story is all about this really creepy...
Yeah, come on, Bob. Come on, Bob.
What's this? What the... Maurice, we're doing a show here. Hello?
Don't be afraid, Bob. He may look weird, but he's just a harmless cockroach.
Bob? Who's Bob?
Oh, Bob, my dog. Come on, Bobby. Come on, boy. Come
This
on,
I gotta
Bob.
see.
Come on.
Right after our first story.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Dr. Werner von Bunsenburner. I used to see Werner every year at the League of Mad Scientists convention in Poughkeepsie. But even for a mad scientist, Werner was foo-foo crazy. He was always going on about how he was going to preserve his brain so he could live forever. We all laughed and told him he was crazier than a soup sandwich. All of us other mad scientists knew that the real money was in creating products for late-night infomercials. But Werner was determined. He turned his back on the League of Mad Scientists and worked night and day on his brain-preserving invention. He went without food, without sleep, even without television. I told you he was crazy. But he got his machine to work. He managed to zap his own brain into a jar where the special preserving liquid would keep it alive forever. Okay, but there was a problem. You see, his brain was in this jar on a shelf, and it had to stay there with nothing to do. It was connected up to a voice synthesizer, but there was no one to talk to. You know, without a body, immortality sucks. So, he was imprisoned in this jar on his own for weeks, months, years. He was going out of his mind because he couldn't go out of his mind, if you follow. And Werner's lab never got any visitors. So, Werner resigned himself to living the rest of his long, long life all alone. Until a burglar came crashing through his window. Werner saw this as a golden opportunity. He could use his machine to switch brains with the burglar and escape. All he had to do was lure the burglar into it. So, using his voice synthesizer, Werner made an announcement.
Attention!
He said,
This is a computerized alarm system. Do not go near the vault safe. Repeat, do not attempt to open the vault safe where all the valuables are.
well, the burglar's face lit up, and he went right over to what he thought was the vault safe.
No, don't do it. You'll be sorry.
Yelled the brain, trying to suppress its glee. The burglar turned the wheel to open the safe, and the brain-sucking machine came down from the ceiling onto his head. The burglar's brain wound up in the jar. But even better, Werner's brain was sucked into the body of the burglar. At last, he had a body again. He could interact with the rest of the world. He ran outside for the first time in years. Oh, the sweet smell of fresh air. The sounds of nature. The feel of the cool green grass under his feet. Yes, for the first time in years, Werner could enjoy all the smells, sounds, and sensations the world had to offer. But then Werner saw something really sensational. The first Fräulein he had seen in decades. This must be love, thought Werner. He stood there, transfixed, trying to muster the courage to go over to her. Then he discovered why he couldn't move. He was surrounded by policemen who put him in handcuffs and leg irons. You see, the burglar who broke into Werner's office was wanted for a series of robberies. And Werner's new face and fingerprints pointed to him being the burglar. Werner couldn't convince the police that he was no thief, just an honest mad scientist trapped in the body of a habitual criminal. In fact, the judge was so disgusted at Werner's ridiculous claims, she decided he must pay the maximum penalty for the burglar's crimes. Life in solitary confinement. That was a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Dr. Werner von Bunsenburner. He got burnt all right. He escaped his jar, only to end up in the jig.
Some dog you got, he won't even come when you call him.
Well, he's cute, but he's not too bright.
You're not too bright. He's a dog. Just drag him in here.
Oh, I want him to love me. You drag him in.
All right. Get over here. Maurice, this dog is...
I love him so very, very much.
Huh? How am I going to tell him his pet dog ain't a real dog?
This is a true story. Happened to a friend of mine, Ruth Smedley, a chemistry professor. The college had a reputation for discovering some of the brightest stars in the world of academia. But from time to time, a student came along that one would recognize as a black hole in the bunch. In this particular case, there were two. Peter and Paul were perhaps the most obnoxious young troublemakers to ever set foot in those hallowed halls of higher learning. They were chemistry majors, but most of their experiments were performed outside the laboratory. And they usually involved members of the periodic table of elements that could be combined to make the most obnoxious sounds, offensive sights, and nauseating odors. First, it was bubbles in the school fountain. Good, clean fun, you say? Ha-ha! Then the washroom stink-o-rama. There was nothing clean about that. Then the floating food in the cafeteria. Uplifting for a moment, perhaps, but ultimately ending in a vile, sticky mess. There was little doubt amongst the faculty and student body as to who were the architects of all the mayhem. But Peter and Paul seemed to have skin like Teflon. No one could pin the blame on them and make it stick. By year's end, Peter and Paul were still holding on to passing grades, much to the chagrin of Professor Smedley. It irked her to no end that these thorns in her side kept coming up smelling like roses. She couldn't wait to see the backs of their fat heads heading out the door for the last time. It was the night before the important final examination. Figuring they could easily keep up their D grade on the final, Peter and Paul decided that instead of studying like other students, they'd sneak out for one last night of bone-headed buffoonery. The venue of choice on this particular evening was the women's dormitory. Their goal, as always, was to wreak havoc for no particular reason whatsoever. For Peter and Paul, it was a night to remember. Unfortunately, they failed to remember to set their alarm. They made a mad dash to the auditorium, but by the time they got to the exam room, it was all over. They'd missed it. Their hijinks had finally caught up with them. Their parents would kill them if they didn't at least get passing grades, or at least make them pay back the rather hefty tuition fees. They had to think fast, so they did the only thing they could do under the circumstances. And they threw themselves at the mercy of Professor Smedley. And together they conjured up the most unbelievable crock about going away to a retreat and studying for hours, getting so involved in the research that they barely had enough time to get back. But wouldn't you know it, and much to their horror, they got a flat tire. And of course the car had no spare, and on they went, deeper into their lie. To Peter and Paul's surprise, when they looked up at Professor Smedley, she seemed to be buying it. In fact, she said, I'm going to give you boys a second chance to improve your year-end mark. Yes, I'll let you take the exam, and it's going to be worth 100% of your grade. Needless to say, the boys couldn't believe their luck. Yes, this was their finest hour. They pulled one over on Smedley, what? But even better, now they might get decent marks, which would definitely impress their folks. Not bad after goofing around for 3 years. So the boys hit the books and pulled an agonizing all-nighter. The next morning, Peter and Paul were all set to ace the final exam. They arrived right on time. Professor Smedley gave them each an exam booklet with their name on it. Seemed strange to Peter and Paul that she put them in separate rooms. The first question was worth 5% and was a no-brainer about what chemical compounds could be mixed together to form different types of gases. Neither boy had a problem with that one. The next question, worth 95% of the year's final mark, was not nearly so easy. Oh, no. It was just 4 simple words, and it had the boys completely flummoxed. The question read, which tire was flat? This is a true story, happened to a friend of mine. As for Peter and Paul, they never did graduate, but they were able to eke out a meager existence doing what they did best, clowning around.
I gotta tell you.
Isn't he the sweetest, cutest, most darling little fella?
Man, the truth is gonna break his heart.
Did you want to tell me something, Larry?
Later.
Roll the next story.
Okay, good boy.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Smelly Kelly's this guy from the neighborhood, right? Got his nickname for obvious reasons. See, Smelly Kelly worked in the sewers, and what's more, he liked it. Hey, it's what makes you happy that counts, right? But Smelly wasn't gonna get rich and famous hanging around down there. Yeah, well, that's what we all thought, too. But see, one day, old man Griznat sent for Smelly Kelly. Smelly went right up to the miser's mansion on the Upper West Side. Now, anyone who read a paper could tell you about Griznat. Rich, 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 and mean, mean, mean. This guy closed an orphanage once to open a drive-through yogurt shack. Smelly Kelly was ushered in the front door, and he stopped dead. Because at the top of the stairs was the most beautiful girl Smelly had ever seen. Their eyes locked for a split second, see? But then the butler shoved Smelly into the master's study, mostly in self-defense. Oh, the girl was a real beauty. Right out of Smelly's league. The crinkly old miser sat there, and he got right to the point. I want you to map me out the whole underground of the city, he said. Never been done in 100 years. Gonna buy the whole thing and charge the public by the flush. Smelly was excited, right? He was already dreaming about all the caverns of putrid slime and rivers of sludge no one had ever seen. Smelly didn't think twice about quitting his job with the city right there and then. And he was down there for months, years even. Never saw daylight for weeks on end. Packs of rats started following him around as he crisscrossed through the underground maze. Slipping through traps no one even knew were there. Ducking through grids no wider than a river snake's behind. But one day, finally, the maps were done. Smelly was a sewer genius, right? But he was broke. So he took a 300-year-old viaduct to an ancient set of stairs and popped out in old man Griznat's laundry room. But this is where everything went bad for Smelly, right? He and his putrid odor hauled themselves into the old man's den, presented him with the best, stinkiest set of sewer maps anyone ever saw, and the old man just kicked him out. Seems he lost interest in the whole deal like hours after Smelly went underground. Just never bothered to tell the guy. Oh, and he wasn't paying him neither. Smelly tried getting his job back with the city, but his old co-workers found his new aroma a little hard to take. He was on the street when the news hit. Billionaire's granddaughter swept away. It seems old man Griznat's granddaughter's diamond necklace fell off and went right down an open manhole. The kid reached in for it and boom, down she went too. Smelly lost no time. He dove in the nearest sewer grate and off he swam. Not uptown where the girl fell in, but downtown where he knew the girl was headed. Smelly swam fast and hard. He took a left, then a right. Then another sharp right. And then he waited. The current was unbelievably strong, but no girl. Just then, a twisting lump of tangled dress came swirling round a corner, hit one wall, then the other, and then it screamed at the top of its lungs, "This is so much fun!" Smelly caught the girl in his arms as she whooshed past. They were made for each other, right? You could see it in their eyes. And you could sure smell it with your nose. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Good thing they handed out clothespins at the wedding, huh?
Hey, Maurice, about this dog of yours.
He may not be real to you, but he is to me. If I believe he's real, then he's real, and I really do believe.
Hey, I tried. Our next story! Huh?
He missed his mommy. I had to let him go.
Now, this is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Vern, and his 5-year-old kid, Charles. Vern and his truck, Big Bertha, was staking out the interstate waiting for something to happen. He had his kid along to sort of, show him the ropes. Never can start him too young these days. Anywho, it was young Charlie who spotted him first. A busload of kids were on a field trip to the planetarium. Anyhow, the bus driver, he must have been somewhere else, because when he took the cutoff, he completely misses the big sign that says, "Low bridge, maximum clearance 6 feet." And whammo! When they said maximum clearance 6 feet, they meant it. Vern revs up the engine on Big Bertha and gets his butt down there as fast as he could to see if he could help, and maybe make a good buck on a tow, just to show his kid how it's done, you see. The kids on the bus were okay, thank goodness. And the driver, well, he was more embarrassed than anything. But that bus was wedged in there like nothing Vern had ever seen. I mean, this was a real good one. Vern tried and tried to get that sucker out of there. Even Big Bertha couldn't tow out that bus. It was well and truly stuck, my friend, like gum on the bottom of your shoe. So Vern finally gives up and calls fire company number 1, who responded in record time. They couldn't save Big Bertha, though. A real shame. So anyways, the firemen turned their attention to the 24 children still trapped in the tunnel. A leak in the fuel tank added a whole new wrinkle to the problem. See, the kids couldn't get out. And if the firemen created a spark, the fuel could ignite and kablooey! There'd be an explosion to end all explosions. They decided they needed somebody higher up to make that kind of call. Vern and Charlie stood clear, and soon the whole place was swarming with cops, engineering experts, and a slew of looky-loos. Not to mention every major news station in the tri-state area. Within minutes, the whole country had its eyes on the drama unfolding. And with the press, of course, came the politicians. I'm telling you, they came like cockroaches out of the woodworks. Well, the mayor finally shows up and puts himself personally in charge. I mean, after all, it was an election year, and something like this could make him a hero. All he needed was a simple solution. And soon, he assured the crowd that everything was under control. You know, he and his people were going to get everything right. Those kids were going to be fine. And that's when Charlie decided to get in on the action. Charlie was a smart kid, you see. He noticed a lot of things other people might miss. You see, Charlie had an idea, but the mayor was far too busy making sure that the press was impressed with the job he was doing. He just said, "That's nice. Now go find something to do, kid." Well, things weren't getting any better, so they decided to bring in the big gun. The mayor had clout, no doubt about it, but brute force just wasn't going to cut it. The bridge looked like it might collapse at any moment. That's when Charlie gave the mayor another try. Charlie tried to get a word in edgewise again, but the mayor shut him down like a road closure. "I thought I told you to go find something to do, kid." At first, Charlie was a little hurt. I mean, nobody was listening to him. Then he got angry. And then he got even. He walks right under the police line. The mayor yells, "Stop that kid!" The police pulled out their bullhorns. Vern even called out to him. but Charlie just went up to the bus and stuck his lollipop in the pressure release of the tires. Everybody stops and stares. I mean, what the heck was this kid up to? In seconds, those tires had gone flatter than a skunk in the middle of the road, and the bus was clear of the bridge, just like that. And Charlie motions for the bus driver to back the bus out. Nobody could believe it, especially the mayor. Yep, Charlie was a hero. And a few months later, the new mayor awarded Charlie a key to the city, declaring it Charles Day, with free lollipops for everybody. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Oh, the former mayor? Well, he had to go find something else to do.
Dear Larry, this guy in St. John's, Newfoundland writes, someone told me Maurice used to be a stand-up comic. This can't be true, right? Wrong. In fact, we got some tapes of Maurice's act. Roll the tape! Check this out.
My brother had his nose broken in 3 places. I told him not to go to those places. My brother plays piano by ear. My father fiddles with his whiskers. My father's so rich he uses bookends as a money clip. He's so old his birthday cake had 100 candles. My father ate the candles. He had a wick stomach.
So, you see why Maurice's career as a stand-up comic is history. Old news. Bygones. Adios. Toodaloo.
You know what's worse than raining cats and dogs? Hailing a taxi.
Thank you.